True Communism, Soviet SI by J1 Thinking. I am a communist, and back where I am from. I have spent 57 years in my home country of Nigeria, trying to start a communist revolution, but it never worked out, and what I had spent most of my life on had come to nothing, and so as I laid on my bed at the age of 97 dying. It was now dying that I realized the only way I could have ever brought about a communist revolution was if I had the backing of a superpower, and not China, they not communist, they capitalist. No, I mean if I had the support of the USSR I could have had my communist revolution, but sadly they are no longer around. If only I could have been sent back in time, back to when the USSR was still around, then maybe I could have saved it, and with it saved so much more could have been done. If only I thought as my eyes closed. Maximilian Romanov has been my name for the past 39 years, and the day I have been planning for years to come. Andropov just died, but become we can begin. Let me tell you a quick story of how I got here. At the age of 25, I was already considered a prodigy. I was a national hero after fighting in Afghanistan, where I saved over 300 of my Soviet comrades by single-handedly holding off over 1,000 Afghan fighters until reinforcement arrived, or at least that's what state propaganda says. After that, I served one more year in Afghanistan, where my popularity only grows, and by the time I went back home to Kazakhstan I was a major general. From there I gained a reputation for my hard work against corruption, and that is when Andropov took an interest in me. He took me and made me his apprentice, and by the time I was 32, I was given an advisory in Afghanistan, where I left most of the countryside to the Afghan rebels while killing hundreds of them at once, holding cities' key cross points and defensive strong points. Then in 1982, the Battle of Jaji happens, where after almost 3 years of being besieged at Ali Sher, I launched an operation to relieve the garrison and cut off supply lines to the Mujahideen from Pakistan. The battle lasted for 2 months, and in that time I destroyed trees that the Mujahideen had hoped to use for fortifications, burnt entire villages, destroyed many tunnels that I had known was there. Thanks to my knowledge of history, I also beat back many attempted ambushes, and finally, after a long and hard-fought battle, I was able to make the Mujahideen retreat after taking many losses, with estimates from 1,000 to 7,000 Mujahideen being killed or captured, while I only lost 200 men. The success of the offensive made my already high popularity reach new levels, with me being given the Hero of the Soviet Union awarded, and so add that to the fact that I was even seen as someone that represented a new generation of Soviet leadership, that was reinvigorated yet still committed to their Marxist-Leninist ideas. Andropov, to the surprise of many, made me the youngest member of the Central Committee at the age of 36. So here I am at 39, and 3 years later. Gorbachev, that fool, had tried to keep me out of Moscow in advance, but here I was now. I know what you are going to say. You are 39, why would they make you in charge? Well, you see, the past 3 years, thanks to Andropov's support, I was able to cour Viktor Grishin and the Conservatives, and so at the March 1985 meeting of the Central Committee, when it seemed that Gorbachev would become General Secretary, I, to the surprise of many, voiced my opposition, and thanks to the ally I made, I was able to get more votes, and I got Gromyko to withdraw his support for Gorbachev, and with that, I became the 6th General Secretary of the Communist. During the Central Committee meeting, Gorbachev's color drained from his face. He had planned for this, had done everything he could do so he would be made General Secretary. It had all come apart when that fool Romanov had voiced his opposition and somehow managed to convince the majority of the Politburo to vote for him. He felt like he had let his country down, because he knew that the country could not handle another hardliner. Knowing what the Soviet Union needed was reforms, he felt only he could do the things that must be done, but although he was mad, he knew, attempting to oppose Romanov now would only make things worse for himself and his family. As he looked around, he saw the grimaces on the face of his reformist allies and the smug smirks of the hardliners. They must be happy now that they got a puppet to control, especially one that is so popular, he thinks. The meeting ends like most Central Committee meetings. Hands were shaking and pleasantries exchanged. I shuffled out of the grand room, mad and depressed. Romanov, in a happy mood, approached and greeted me warmly. I see Gorbachev and go over to him, Greeting him warmly, I offered my sympathy. Even if I think you have good intentions for our union, the problem is that you are too weak and do not have the conviction to do what is necessary. If you would had won, you would have doomed our country. And that is why you will still have a place in the Central Committee, you just do not have the will to rule this country. Do you understand? He of course agreed and wished me good luck in defeat. One of the first I do is order the development and application of computer systems to allow for more effective economic planning that I would later call BTC, which means the beginning of true communism. You see, the General Secretary of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union traditionally gives a landmark speech on May Day, usually for the purpose of announcing new policies, either domestic or foreign. This speech would sometimes be televised to the Soviet audience. This I have deemed unacceptable and demanded that my speech be televised not just all over the Soviet Union but also translated and shown in Allied, puppets, countries and all those who want see it. Our dream of a true communist country has come under a great many threats, not just from our foreign enemies, who threaten our way of life with their imperialism, who have driven us to the edge of nuclear annihilation, but also by traitors, who spread anti-communist ideas with Western propaganda. Members in our party commit criminal behaviors like illegally buying and selling property of the state, to enrich themselves. People who work hard, who have shown love for our state, are betrayed by those whose corruption has crippled us. Our final, and the most dangerous enemy is complacency, and the stagnation of which has undoubtedly hampered our goals. Which happened under Brezhnev, and although he did his best for the fraternal brotherhood of peoples in the Soviet Union, failed in his duties by allowing stagnation to take hold. I say no more. Will I let this happen, and so that is why I have embarked on a program called Red Justice. I intend to bring any and all corrupt individuals, no matter who they are, or what rank they hold in the party, to justice. For this purpose, I have authorized the KGB to begin a general anti-corruption campaign. For this purpose, I have decided to create a separate division from the KGB answerable only to the General Secretary, who will work day and night until all corrupt individuals have been brought to justice. Let it be known that I will fight and work to destroy all external and internal enemies of our state. My speech sent shock waves, not just to the party, but also to the general public, because never had someone in the party, much less the General Secretary, acknowledged the problems plaguing the country. This was taken with a mixed reaction from the party, with some reformers and moderates, some comparing me to Stalin or Hitler, but most of the headliners of the party, KGB, and the general population who had come to perceive Brezhnev as an idiot and overwhelmingly incompetent support me. May 10, 1985. I knew the Soviet Union was in big trouble, but this has exceeded my expectations. Then I thought it seems saving the Union will be a lot harder, so even though I do not wish to, but it seems the only thing to do is some kind of market socialism. And no, I will still make sure the vast majority of things will follow the tenets of communism. Only those that I deem necessary will be allowed to participate in market socialism. I have to be careful. If I do too much, the party will end me. Too little and the Soviet Union collapsed. I have already pushed my luck with my speech. The fact that I have had a few cases where high-level corrupt officials, scores of my political enemies, groups espousing political dissent against me, which of course I arrested, sent to labor camps, and sometimes simply shot, all of which happened in the past weeks. I am sure the only reason the party probably hasn't gotten rid of me is that a lot of them now fear me, and I am very popular with the people due to my actions. Another reason is that the KGB and hardliners support me. Even though I have plans to purge some of them when I am secure in my power. As of right now, I am still not secure in my power. That is why, for now, I have to negotiate with the party to pass reforms. Reforms. 1. Partial privatization of state-owned collectives. A plan where farmers who move beyond the Urals will be entitled to a plot of land, which is aimed to help fix the Soviet food problem. After negotiations, the party has compromised where we agreed that it would be 30% of collective farms that would be reformed. There will be mandatory testing of the readiness of each farmer as a compromise to the hardliners. 2. Businesses will be given a quota of goods to supply to the central government at a fixed price, beyond which all enterprises will be able to sell products on the market for whatever price is established to be fair. 3. Quality control is to be enforced and factory heads will be held accountable. Self-management in some industries is allowed and higher standards are to enforce. D. In agriculture. All of this will be made sure to be implemented by the KGB, who will monitor the factory heads to make sure they do their job properly. The unit that will do this will be under the collective leadership of the party for now. All of this is met with enthusiasm by farmers and workers who are happy that I am keeping my promises. May 12, 1985. Seeking to pressure Pakistan to end its support of the US-backed Mujahideen rebellion in Afghanistan, I inform the head of the Pakistani junta, Zia al-Haq, that the USSR will be formally downgrading relations with his country, along with a warning that failure to stop supporting the rebellion will result in the Soviet Union offering its support to separatist groups within Pakistan who seek to create an independent state of Baluchistan. May 25. In an attempt to prepare for the collapse of oil prices in 1986, I order the cutback on oil deals that do not produce hard currency for us in return. This is necessary because I need to maximize oil income before oil prices begin to fall. I also begin contact with OPEC in an attempt to control the oil prices. June 1, 1985. The Soviet Politburo votes to increase the number of troops in Afghanistan to over 200,000. I do this because I hope that increased actions and troops will be enough to secure Afghanistan. June 2, 1985. Massive airstrikes are launched at Afghanistan's border with Pakistan. This provokes the Pakistani government to send its troops across the border to the assistance of the Mujahideen. This angers Romanov, who uses the justification that Pakistan is sending troops across the border to launch airstrikes and massive attacks on Pakistan's military and government infrastructure. Ballistic missiles, including ATR-21, were also used at Pakistani air bases, radar, and command and control facilities. The Pakistani Air Force is all but destroyed in the first 36 hours. Once the Soviets have air superiority, strikes will continue and would soon number into the hundreds each month. The attacks have no strategic targets, merely training camps for the Mujahideen. Secretary-General Romanov declares Pakistan to be a terrorist state. Romanov orders that 2 divisions be transported from Germany to Afghanistan to begin clearing operations on the border. June 9, 1985. Chernobyl is ordered to shut down after an investigation shows it's unstable. Because of this, the Soviet government orders that all nuclear plants be reviewed for safety reasons. June 20, 1985. A defiant crowd of protesters in Pretoria, the capital of South Africa, are attacked by police and military officers who use live bullets that cause the death of over 300 people, as international support for the apartheid regime continues to be unsteady. June 24, 1985. Pakistan had several complaints to the UN about Soviets' airstrikes, but it ignored them. The US increased sanctions against the USSR, not that it does much. June 25. Alcohol. The implementation of the anti-alcohol campaign is put in the care of Yegor Ligachev, while oversight was given to Mikhail Solomontsev. They immediately applied taxes worth between 2.2% to 3.25% of the purchase price to the cost of alcohol. I even joined the campaign, ending my alcohol consumption completely, not that I drank it in the first place. Penalties for service to minors and drunk driving are dramatically increased. June 26. I need more hard currency for more economic reforms. For that I plan to have military cuts, but for that to happen I need Chebrikov to be on board, and so after weeks of meetings, IT decided that Chebrikov will support military cuts. In exchange he gets a 4% increase in KGB staffing and a 9% increase in KGB salaries. I have also bribed a few other people to support the cuts. June 27. Poland, Warsaw. A young man burns himself alive while screaming that the people should rise up against communist dictatorship. This causes riots that have to be put down by the army. On 29, 1985. The reforms I have done will take at least 2 years to start showing signs of success, and it will take many more years for the other reform that I plan to make. But I don't have time for that as I need more hard currency now. Which is the main topic of the Central Committee meeting about how to get the currency we need now. There were a few ideas. Some like Gorbachev suggested that we allow Soviet citizens to discuss publicly the problems of the system and potential solutions. He also suggests that we allow more freedom of speech, hoping that this will signal to the West a willingness to reform. His idea is rejected by everyone including his own reformist faction. Others suggest an increase in tourism. Some hardliners even suggest that we take advantage of the fact that Pakistan is a lot weaker to encourage India to attack Pakistan, hoping that war between them might cause the oil prices to increase again. It would also allow us to sell more weapons to India. Some even suggests that we ally with Iran, give them some weapons, to attack Iraq. I suggest 2 things. Simply steal from the West. I say that we have the KGB go into Western countries, copy technologies and materials that we need, like cars, computer systems, television, etc. This is an issue with some, but I remind everyone of the situation we are in, and besides, like Lenin once said, the capitalists will sell us the rope with which we will use to hang them. Cherenkov supported the idea along with a few other members. And lastly, to involve ourselves in the drug trade, which I pushed through with heavy protests. We encourage India to attack Pakistan while it's weak. Approach Iran and help them attack Iraq in hopes that they will also destroy the oil fields of Iraq, which will cause oil prices to rise. KGB focusing on commercial espionage. Involving the Union in the drug trade through Afghanistan. We also talked about creating a single currency for the entire Eastern Bloc, but that's a discussion for later. July 1, 1985. After a few weeks of secret talks with religious leaders of the Soviet Union, Romanov agrees to allow freedom of religion as long as they may be strictly apolitical and a few other things. July 5, 1985. To the surprise of many around the world and especially the Soviet citizens themselves, it is announced that freedom of religion will be allowed as long as it doesn't preach against communism. This sends shock waves through the Union and further cement Romanov in most Soviet citizens' views that he is someone they can trust. July 8, 1985. Small businesses are allowed so long as they keep to the spirit of communism. This is played in Soviet propaganda as a step closer to true communism. Price controls for over 379 items are dropped. July 9, 1985. President Reagan was absolutely livid. The Soviets had destroyed the 40 brand new F-16A and B fighter jets and even managed to capture some of them from Pakistan, and from what the CIA was telling him, the Afghan rebels' ability to operate was significantly decreased. He wanted vengeance, so he ordered the CIA to respond, which they did. They started supporting the opposition in Azerbaijan, the Baltics, Ukraine, and Central Asia. Although it wasn't very successful in Central Asia, as they were loyal to the Union and become even more loyal when one of their own became General Secretary, as Romanov is part Kazakh on his mother's side, but it is partially successful elsewhere, as will be seen in the uprising of 1991. July 15, 1985. Soviet jets strike portions of the Kahuta research laboratories, outside Islamabad in Pakistan. They managed to hit the gas centrifuge plant, destroying Pakistan's capacity to build a nuclear weapon. CIA intelligence estimate that it will be 1999 before Pakistan can recover its previous capacity and will be unable to build a nuclear weapon until at least 2007. July 17, 1985. Soviet Foreign Minister Eduard Shevardnadze visits Tehran to meet with Ruhollah Khomeini, Iran's supreme leader, where he expresses wishes to improve Iranian-Soviet relations. He offers a free trade relationship and for the Soviet begins shipping arms to Iran. In exchange, Iran is to cut ties with the Mujahideen, and promise that they will not support Pakistan in attacking the USSR in any way. This is something that Ruhollah knew he cannot refuse because at the moment Iran needs all the help they can get, and a free trade deal would help Iran greatly, so with some hesitation he accepted. And on July 25, to the surprise and shock of the Americans and everyone else, Iran and the USSR sign a free trade agreement. July 26, 1985. All Warsaw Pact states but Romania sign an agreement to terminate all military aid to Iraq. Nicolae Soska will have to be dealt with soon. Such obedience cannot be allowed. July 27, 1985. Why are you thinking? Why publicly announced your deal with Iran? What I just did will cause the US to increase support for Iraq, which combined with the fact that Iran gets more support from us, will make the Iran-Iraq war more bloody, which hopefully will cause oil prices to go up. This is partly why I signed the economic deal with Iran. It not only helps us but it also makes sure that Iran does not have an economical collapse when they lose a significant part of their oil revenues. July 27, 1985. With Soviet help, Iran began preparation for a campaign in late 1985. Their economic situation also starts to increase thanks to the free trade deal they signed with the Soviet Union. July 28, 1985. With encouragement from the USSR, India declares war on Pakistan. They began the war by launching attacks into western Kashmir, where they managed to take a few crosses but are stopped at Skardu, where they suffer high casualties. Although they are stopped at Skardu, they have more success in Pakistan, where they are aided by Pakistan separatists who help inflict several defeats on the Pakistan army. Large parts of Rajasthan and Punjab are taking the US and NATO call for a ceasefire. The Soviet Union remains quiet. July 29, 1985. The US increases aid to Iraq and Pakistan. July 30, 1985. Oil prices increase from $22.23 a barrel to $23.96 a barrel. August 1, 1985. Chernobyl is turned back on after it discovers that it's not unstable, but there was a flaw in the energy shutdown the system that is fixed. Thank for watching.